And welcome back to another episode of Five Questions with the Paulists. Today, we're going to, believe it or not, Weeki Wachee, Florida. And what's in Weeki Wachee, Florida, but our good friend and Paulist Deacon affiliate, Deacon Dennis Dolan. Hey, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me, Mike. Appreciate it.
Weeki Wachee, Florida. I don't think I've heard of that.
Yes. Well, it's on the Gulf Coast, just above Tampa. And back in the day before Mickey took over, if you went to Florida, it was one of the main stops. They have an underwater theater with mermaids, and they do like stories and synchronized swimming and all that. It's like, you would do that and go to Cypress Gardens and watch the water skiing and all. It's old Florida, but it's still here. It's right down the road from my house, and that's the claim to fame to Weeki Wachee.
There you go. I just wanted to learn to say it so I could say Weeki Wachee on the air.
Yeah, no. So. People think I'm in Hawaii when I say it, so I kind of like it. Kind of an upgrade from Florida,
Well, anyway, question one as we start our program today. You're one of the first Paulist Deacon affiliates. And so how have the Paulists influenced your ministry as a deacon?
Well, the Paulist influenced my ministry. Before I was a humble deacon, I was a humble lay minister, like yourself. Many moons ago, I came in contact with the Paulist and Isaac Hecker, and I just, fell in love with the charism. I'm sure I've read everything published about Hecker or by Hecker. They've influenced me greatly because, first of all, Hecker's spirituality suits me tremendously well. My favorite saint or spirituality is whichever one I'm reading at the moment. You know what I mean? There's not too many of them that I go, not so much. I like them a lot. I like a lot of them. I get different points and stuff. And of course, that's what Hecker preached. It's the Holy Spirit, and then whatever you find on the great spiritual buffet of Catholicism, knock yourself out. You go that way, and we're all individuals. So the spirituality, but the other thing, the Paulists as a group influenced me both in my lay ministry for since like 1971. That's how far back that goes, because I'm old. Is the great joy that I found among the Paulists, where I think for the first time, I was 19, something like that, 19, 19, 20, and I realized that this ministry stuff can be fun. And of course, later on in your studies, you come across the line that joy is the infallible sign of the Holy Spirit. So that fits in with, the Paulist spirituality. But they're just fun guys, and they seem to enjoy each other. They were all their own persons, of course, as Hecker would have wished. And the other thing was, I was amazed at their innovation in ministry. My conservative friends would tease me about, those liberal Paulists, this and that. And, and it was really kind of amusing to me, because it's like, these guys, like every 10 years or so, kind of 10, 15 years, come up with a whole new ministry that no one's ever done before. And all these people, they're clutching their pearls and, this is the end, and blah, blah, blah. And 20 years later, everybody's doing it, and it's not even controversial. But for those 10 years, they were, congregation of semi-Protestants, CSP, right? There was always some knock on it. And it's like, well, why would you, I remember this. Why would you want to talk to divorced people? They're out. Let them go, like this is crazy. And, all the way back to, let's do Newman work. And the bishop said, well, let them go to Catholic colleges. And they were always in movies, the radio, movies, internet, television, of course, all that stuff. And it was, it just becomes non-controversial, becomes part of the, part of the church landscape. Landings is another one, right? These people have left the church. Fie on them all, So just that innovation and this little group, and like, how do they keep doing this? You know? So that's always been an inspiration to me. And of course, I realized early on, uh, because when I was doing my training in the 70s, ideas like evangelization were just not even mentioned. And I was always struggling with, because I was doing a lot of high school teaching at that part of my career. And I realized that my students were just happy little pagans. They knew they, I taught them and they answered the questions on the test. But I realized like this is going nowhere. These guys, most of these people are not going to live this out in any meaningful way at all. And I finally figured out the word for that is evangelization, that I'm trying to make disciples of these people. And this is just, geometry. I've got to get through this and then I'm going to forget it, So, so the Paulists helped me focus on that and really understand, all of that. So they've affected me in everything. I'm not a Paulist, of course, but I am a Hicarian. I am. I am a follower of Isaac Hecker, for as best I can be, and I have been since I first came across him. So.
Nice, yeah. That's a good distinction, I think, too. You've also been a prison chaplain forever. So question two is, have you been able to minister to prisoners throughout the pandemic? And what did you learn through the course of prison ministry that maybe you didn't know about prisoners of the prison system before?
Well, I have not been able to minister. I've been out of prison ministry since I retired 5 years ago. I was a full-time Catholic chaplain. I was the senior Catholic chaplain in the Department of Corrections, the state of Connecticut. I ministered in 5 different prisons at all security levels, from pre-release up to level 5, which is high security, both men and women. And I did that for 21 years. So I was, when I retired from it, I was kind of like, yeah, I've been here too long. I need to do something else. And so I've been trying to, with another Paulist affiliate, Tom Casey, who's a Deacon affiliate, also in Weeki Watchie, right up the street from me. Funny. So Tom was in my parish in Connecticut, St. Andrews and Colchester. He became a deacon in the Diocese of Norwich, as I did. He worked at the prison with me, and now I live, a stone's throw from him in retirement. So we're trying to whip up some business in young adult ministry, because of, obviously, this is where we're losing the franchise. So I haven't really been in prison ministry for 6 years, although I still write for the Paulist newsletter for the inmates that they put out. But I needed to change, and I wanted to try something different. As far as the pandemic goes, we're old, my wife and I. She has some underlying conditions, so I wouldn't even have attempted it if I could have, because that's what makes it hazardous duty. Even when I was in there before the pandemic, there's a lot of germy things, MRSA and all kinds of stuff floating around that'll get you. So I haven't done that. What I learned in a nutshell was that prison is an indication of the failures of society. What I learned about the prison system is what everybody probably knows some of it, that, it's good to have a good lawyer and a lot of money. It's better to be white than black. It's, whatever, those kinds of things. But that the real thing is, I saw people, prison, okay, so let's do it the simple way. Prison is not what we grow up thinking it is, where it's, okay, you made a mistake, you made a bad decision, you get punished, and you say, well, now, I'm not doing that again, and then you go back to society. That, that's like a handful of the people that are in there. Most of them are, mental illness is rampant. And, like the number of inmates that in Connecticut and of course in prison, you don't want to get sick in prison. We're not like doling out the top, the Cadillac medical plan here for them. And, but the numbers of them that they had, like, in one of the women's prison I worked at, it was over 50% of the women. One of the doctors was telling me one day in the mental health unit, 50% of the entire population now, not just the unit, were on psych meds. And, and again, they don't want to give them to them. Those things are expensive. So you wonder how many should be on it. But, so you have all these people with these untreated mental illnesses, which they then turn to street drugs to try to self-medicate, which then gets them into a life of crime. And then it's just the revolving door of recidivism. They're always coming back. They're always coming back. We used to call it life on the installment plan. They were doing a life sentence on the installment plan. And so prison is not fixing anything. What we need is medical care, because the handful of people, because we are correct, the handful of people that it was a moral lapse, and like people who are, I don't know, say an embezzler, they don't come back. They're like, yeah, okay, I'm not doing that again. This was no fun. I learned my lesson. But if you're mentally ill, if you're addicted, your addiction and your mental illness, I can lock you up forever. It's not going to go away. And when you go back out into a similar or worse situation, you're not going to be able to get on your feet. So it doesn't work. These people are broken people. They are not a problem. They are the result of the problems we refuse to deal with. And the other proof of that, I always point to people, is there's no one in jail in Europe. I mean, compared to us, there's no one. They got no one in jail. And you say, well, isn't original sin over there? Don't they have mental illness? Right. But with that, their medical system, national health systems, if Johnny's got a problem at 5, mommy brings him to the doctor and he gets some medication and he doesn't go on to a life of crime. And that's much cheaper than what we're doing. I mean, we could send him to Harvard cheaper than what we're locking him up for in Connecticut for a year. So that's what I learned. That it's really just, I mean, the whole prison system, I think that if you had decent medical care in this country for everybody, you could write off that part of the bill. I mean, again, look at these countries that have it. They don't have to run these huge systems.
Yeah. Yeah. And that experience is really consistent with everybody I know who's done prison ministry. So it's pretty amazing. And not to be flippant about this, but we're all kind of incarcerated at this point. And
yes.
So during this time, what's been your favorite pandemic food?
By the way, we love it when you're flippant. That's part of your charm, Michael. So we enjoy that.
Well, thank you.
It's a very Paulist kind of thing too. Back to our other question. My pandemic food, well, apparently from the memes I see a lot of memes about putting on weight and eating and all this stuff. I'm happy to report that I've lost 15 pounds during
and I've lost 25, so I'm right there with you.
Excellent. Well, I've been trying because, the doctor's giving me the fat boy talk and I'm old. So it's like, all right. So I've been doing some stuff. So my favorite is I have this new smoothie, which is a meal replacement thing.
Yep.
That I make. I'm doing a ketogenic diet and intermittent fasting, and it's really working better than anything else. And I'm not like miserable or anything. So I was like, this is great. But anyway, so one of the things that I've got in this thing I'm doing is a smoothie. It's almond milk, half a banana, a handful of blueberries, a scoop of protein, whey powder, some coconut butter, some chia seeds, some hemp seeds, blend it up, and it's lovely. It's
wow.
Some like a milkshake. It's nice. So I've been kind of enjoying that a little bit.
Cool. And question number 5: have you been able to do? I'm sorry, question 4. I'm screwing up here. So, have you been able to do anything online as a deacon during this time?
I have not, but I'm working on it. I have long been wanting to do this. And where I'm at now is I have a YouTube channel. I have an
Nice.
idea. I have scripts that I've written. I have bought stands and some ring lights and microphone and things like that. I need to do it, but I need so I've done everything that I know how to do, but I've never really learned all the technical stuff. Like, well, okay, so I think I can fumble my way through some kind of half-baked edit, which hopefully, since it won't be a Fellini movie or something, it'll be fairly simple. But well, how do I load this up? How do I do this? How do I do? And and I just find it very hard. I go through the stuff on YouTube, and it's like, yeah, and then you look at it and go, well, they're using something else, or this is a 2-year-old version. Well, where's that button they were talking about? Or, I need a mentor. So I was going to talk to you about that after, because
Oh, very nice. Yes.
I know you are the Lord of time and space when it comes to the interwebs. So maybe you can sit down and walk me through a few things. But yeah, I've got an idea for a channel on spirituality, just going through the like a little taste of the buffet, the Great Catholic Buffet, and just laying it out there and doing, a quick little video on this is what, the Benedictine approach is, the Ignatian approach, whatever Hecker, of course, will be in there. And so some basic things, a couple resources, and encourage people. There's gold in them our hills, and one size does not fit all, despite what you've been told.
Yeah, exactly. And so finally, question 5, when you actually get back into a church, what do you think you'll want to preach about the first opportunity you have to do that again?
Oh, I got to preach on the readings, Michael.
Oh, sure.
We don't get to pick. We're Catholics. We don't get to pick it as election. No, I'm only kidding. One of the things I think that I would, I really haven't given this a whole lot of thought, but certainly one of the things that's going to creep in at the first opportunity is a little bit of gratitude that, to ask people. And of course, all my sermons are to myself. They're just listening. This is always me talking to me. Is a little something on gratitude and attention that, which I think are basic to spirituality, at least in my experience. That that we have, we've all had a taste of what it is not to have the little things that we just take for granted. The ability to go to a movie, the ability to go out and have a cup of coffee with a friend, to walk around freely, to not be paranoid, and to be a little bit more grateful and pay a little more attention, especially to the people that we haven't been able to see, that we took for granted before this. That again, in all the spiritual life, I think that gratitude and attention are two of the foundations of what makes it real for a person. And that's where you find God, is in that paying attention. If you look for God, like some people will often ask about, well, how do I find God or whatever? And they're looking for God like they're looking for their lost keys or something. And it's like, yeah, he's not an object. You're not going to find him like that. But the whole trick is just to look. Don't look for God, just look, pay attention, and be grateful for what you see that's good. And all of a sudden, God's all around you, because you're not going to find him in a box or catch him in a rabbit trap. It's not that kind of a thing. You're going in the wrong direction right away. So I think that attention and gratitude on what we have restored to us, hopefully, and hopefully sooner rather than later, that would be something that would come in. That this is a moment for us to really, make cement that in our minds, that this is an experience we actually had, and it's good that we can enjoy the little things again.
Cool. So, Deacon Dennis, it has been such a pleasure to have you on. Thank you for helping me in my own discernment toward the diaconate, which hopefully will come soon. And
we're praying for it.
Thanks. And, and keep going with the Paulist Deacon affiliates. I think that's a great program that Frank DeCiano, Paulist Father Frank DeCiano has started. And nice handful of guys have now affiliated with the Paulist community. And I think there's a lot more to come down the road with that.
And there is, and we look forward to you, you becoming, joining us. And if you do, I will be happy to welcome you to the revolution.
Well, I look forward to that day. And until then, take care down in Weeki Wachee, Florida. And
all right, I'll tell the mermaids you said hi.
Do that. Thanks.
Bye, Mike.
Again, this has been 5 Questions with the Paulist Fathers, and we'll see you all later.